Hey Student Success, this is your Chapter 8 lecture video, so I'm going to go ahead and pull down into Materials folder. You can see that there is your link for your Chapter 8. So there's no specific PowerPoint for this chapter, so I'm just going to go through the textbook and talk to you about some of these features and then show you a couple of resources that you could use for this as well. So, writing for classes. So as always, at the beginning of the chapter, there is a kind of assessment in terms of where are you with your writing, because whether we like it or not, there is a lot of writing at the college level, and it is very different from high school, especially in regard to the expectation of the length and the quality of our writing. Here are some, where do you want to go with your writing? So a lot of self-assessment, kind of checking in. So again, the importance of writing, there is just so much information in all of your content areas. So you might be expected to, at the very least, write your notes. At the most, you're writing papers, you're writing outlines. And so there are just, writing is one of the greatest ways that information is exchanged as a college student, and then often in your career fields as well. You're writing reports and emails and running down patient, whatever it might be. There's a lot of writing in just about any field that you are in. Many of you might be in, college composition right now, intro to academic writing. So you're definitely getting immersed in the writing there. And so this next section talks specifically about, what is different between high school and college writing. And so there's a lot of key differences. Again, one of the recent studies saying that most high school writing assignments go from about a paragraph to a little under a page. That's kind of the expectation. Whereas when you get into your college courses, you're looking at multiple pages. You might start off with a simple 5-paragraph essay, but then you're going to go into a little bit more length and detail. So if you are a current college student because you're a CCP student, a current high school student because you're CCP, or you're fresh out of high school, this section might really kind of click in with you because you are still maybe in that high school writing mode. And so this section talks a lot about what kind of papers are commonly assigned, and it does depend on the kind of class that you're taking, but you can say they kind of fall under these general verbiage categories. You might be writing a paper to summarize, to define, you might be trying to analyze something, you might be trying to argue. So that's one of the big things, is knowing why are you writing what you're writing, what is the purpose, what is the topic, what is the prompt. So some other things that you want to look at in the assignment, and maybe not explicitly stated, you want to look at those, what, where, when, how, why type of questions. So looking at just the little details of why you're writing what you're writing. So this is really going through those nitty-gritties of looking to see what is it that you're supposed to be writing. What kind of verb am I doing? Am I synthesizing information? Am I comparing, contrasting? What kind of questions am I answering? What's the scope of focus? What is my topic? Do I have to develop it? What's a good topic? So again, knowing all of this about your writing assignment is very important. So how can you become a better writer? So this is basically what we're going to be talking about here. What do instructors want? Usually instructors will be very specific about it in their writing assignment. If not, you need to ask, what are the parameters of this? Sometimes you want to make sure that you are really identifying your topic, which again sounds really simple, but you need to make sure it's very clear. Topic development is a really big part of that writing process, because you need to know what it is you're writing on. You need to make it very clear to your reader what your topic is. You want to make sure that you are going through and really addressing all the terms of the assignment, making sure that you are hitting all of the key words. Again, like those words like argue. Look at your thesis. Look at your length, your word count. Look at all the bits and pieces of the article or your writing itself. The intro, the thesis statement, the flow of your paper. So this section is really talking about how to kind of look at the nitty-gritties. How are you transitioning from links to or sections? How are you editing? How are you citing your sources? Some common issues with grammar. I see this all the time. So just looking at those little nitty-gritty things to make sure that you're using them appropriately. Making sure that you are turning in the format that your instructors want, the hard copy or electronic copy. One of the things that I really tell, even though I don't teach writing classes, what I write in my reading classes, I say we really look at process. Sometimes process is more important than product, and sometimes your instructor might be really emphasizing product. So it's helpful to know, are you going to have to show all the little bits and pieces of your process? So how are you going about this whole writing process to get there? Are you showing drafts? Are you showing your work? And then how can you make that process work for you? Looking at making sure that you're doing a lot of pre-writing, organizing, brain dumping, whatever you want to call it, going through and writing and rewriting and organizing again and revising and editing. Oftentimes people confuse these two things. Revising is when you look at the big picture. So if you're revising, you're making sure that your details match your thesis. You're looking at your transitions. You're looking at how you've organized your writing. If you're editing, you're looking at the little details, my spelling, my grammar, my punctuation, those kind of things. So looking at that there is a difference, although they both tend to happen around the same time, but you can certainly do them as you write as well. So here are some other things if you are a procrastinator. What are some things that you can do to kind of help you make sure that you stay on track, and it links back to chapter 2, but you also want to make sure that you are constantly checking in with your writing. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make is waiting until the last minute, because writing a paper is so much more than just sitting down to write. You're doing a lot of thinking, you're gathering sources, you're developing that topic, you are taking a couple of days away from it so you have fresh eyes and going back to it and revisiting. So here are some other things to do. Maybe it doesn't necessarily all have to do with the writing itself, but maybe you're keeping a journal to kind of write down your thoughts about the readings. Maybe you are making notes about what other people have said about the topic. So there are other things, and these are all other pre-writing activities. Again, it doesn't have to be all in the actual moment of writing, but things that you can be doing before. Are you gathering notes, topic development, looking at your outline? One of these is kind of an interesting thing, like reversing outline. Usually people do it at the beginning, but you can kind of go backward to see what ideas fit or do not fit. Making sure that you're not obsessing over detail, big picture. And then this is a huge one, reading your draft aloud. I often will write a paper and I think it sounds really good, and then I read it out loud and I'm like, oh my gosh, that does not flow together very well, or that doesn't make sense. Or have someone else read it out loud to you. Here's that section that really goes into detail about the difference between revising and editing. So if you struggle with that, really pay attention to this particular area. It tells you the difference. Editing and proofreading go together, and then revising, again, is that big picture stuff. What do you need to do if you have issues or you need help with writing? So I'm going to show you where to go if you're not already familiar, but this gives you some basic, information about where to go, but that is just general. For our purposes, if you go to the Stark State homepage and you come up under info for current students, we're going to go right to the Writing Center here. So here's just some basic general info. So if you just wanted resources, like if you're like, I just need to have some links or things I can click on, there are lots of things here without making an appointment. You can go in here and you can click into different sections and do little lessons. Some of them are better than the digital library, you'll see there, if you're struggling with grammar and mechanics. So you can do all of that without ever making an appointment, but you can also make an appointment with the Writing Center. So you can go on here, there's like a slideshow, here's where you would make an appointment, and here's some hours. Looks like maybe they haven't updated it for fall yet, but you would go through and take a look at the hours, click here to make an appointment, register for an account, and then you'll be able to go in there. I might be able to see if I can get in there so you can see what it looks like. That's okay. You can go in there and you can make an appointment with a specific tutor or a specific time. You can do it online, you can do it in person, but I really do encourage you to check out, at the very least, some of their resources if you don't want to make an appointment quite yet. And you can make an appointment even if you're not taking like a writing specific class. If you're taking any class that has a writing assignment, whether it's a business class, psychology, you can go to the Writing Center to get some help with that. Alright, the next section talks about plagiarism. So sometimes students kind of know what blatant plagiarism is, when you directly copy and paste or when you copy off of someone else. Yeah, those are issues of plagiarism. But some indirect or unintentional plagiarism happens more frequently than the purposeful plagiarism. And so this will go through and talk about the different types of plagiarism. So even if you are reading something and you get an idea and you're like, oh my gosh, they said it really well, I'm going to put it in my own words, you still have to cite that idea. So if you got an idea from someone and you did not directly quote it, you still have to give parenthetical citation. You have to say, from John Smith 2023, whatever it is, you have to cite them. You have to give credit back to where it came from. And of course, obviously, if you're direct quoting, you have to get that, very specific. John Smith, page 12, 2023. So other things, this goes through like what you do and do not need to cite. Talks about common knowledge. A really basic example, the grass is green. Obviously, that's really boiled down. But there are certain things that you don't necessarily have to cite, common knowledge. Here are different types of forms of citation. It's going to go through that. I'm also going to show you a couple of resources here. I really like using the OWL at Purdue. So if you go on the owl.purdue.edu, you can go in, depending on which, are you APA or are you MLA, you go in and it will give you how to do citations. Like in text, are you doing a reference list? It's going to give you kind of walking you through how to do it. I'll give you some examples based on how many authors you have. There's lots of resources here. Another place that you might want to go is a citation machine, and this is where it'll help you build your citations. You can create citations. What are you doing? Are you citing a journal entry? And then you can start kind of plugging in that information, and it'll help you build your citation. The Writing Center, the Digital Library, all of those are places that will help with that as well. Another thing that I like to point out is that you can also plagiarize off yourself. Meaning, let's say that you wrote a paper in the spring, and then you have a class in the fall where you're kind of hovering around a very similar topic, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to take this and put my name on it and update the date. That is self-plagiarism, and you can actually get in quite a bit of trouble for that. So you want to make sure that you're not self-plagiarizing as well. Alright, so there's other kinds of writing in class, so if this applies to anyone in here, this might be a section that you really want to pay attention to. So of course, essays, if you have an in-class essay versus like something you have to do outside of class, you still kind of follow the very similar type of information in terms of looking at the prompt, outlining, covering the key points, keeping track of the time, so you still want to approach it in a very similar way. You just have to be more aware of time. You might have group writing projects in classes, and sometimes that's not people's favorite, but here are some suggestions on how to approach your group writing, and then online courses. So I really encourage you to take a look at this chapter more thoroughly, especially if you struggle with any type of writing, so that you know kind of where you can brush up on. I also, again, encourage you to go to the Writing Center. Here's another place you can make an appointment. There's one at Akron campus. Look at the different resources that we have for the Writing Center, and always reach out to your advisor or the Writing Center or your writing instructor, whoever it might be, myself, if you have any other questions or need direction on where to go. Alright, hope this is helpful. See you next time.